Before you start working with Contribute, it's important to understand exactly what Contribute does and how it fits into the web design workflow. Contribute is really aimed at people who aren't web designers, but who want the ability to quickly make changes and updates to their websites. And usually these sites were designed and created by a real web designer. Both the designer and the person making the changes, or the contributor, can feel safe knowing that with Contribute, the contributor can add and edit content without breaking the site. And if the contributor does accidentally mess up a page or a link or an image or any other content on the page, Contribute offers the ability to roll pages back to their previous states when they were still working properly. So here's an example of a common workflow. The web designer first creates the site and makes sure everything's working properly. She makes sure that links are linking to the right pages and that all the page designs match what the boss wants. Once everything looks okay, she publishes the website to the web so people can actually see it. Then, using Contribute, the site administrator, who often may be the web designer as well, assigns roles to the person or people who will need to make the changes or updates to the website. Roles determine what each person can or can't do to the website, and more on that in just a minute. Then, anytime a change needs to be made, the people who have been assigned roles fire up Contribute and use its built-in web browser to find the page on the site they need to change, and then they make their edits. Whether or not they can publish those changes directly to the live website depends on the role they've been assigned. Now, that's just one example of a possible Contribute workflow. You could very well be a one-person operation and you just want to use Contribute to make quick changes to your site while you're on the road, or maybe you want to use its new blogging capabilities to manage several blogs at once. We'll talk about these other types of workflows as we go along. But first, let's talk a little bit more about the concept of roles. Roles are created and assigned by the site administrator, and roles determine what certain users can and can't do on your site. For example, maybe your website is for a software company and the company is always publishing press releases about its latest products. A site administrator might assign someone the role of writer, whose job it is to write new press releases and maybe edit existing ones. But the writer won't have the ability to publish the press release live on the web. Instead, the writer sends the press release to someone in the role of, say, copy editor. And the copy editor's role has been created to allow him to make changes to text, like fixing grammar and spelling issues, but he can't change the look of the text and he can't add content like images or links, and he also can't publish the press release to the site. So he passes it along to the next person up the chain, which for this example we'll call the editor role. And the editor role has been set up to make any changes that she wants, and she can also have the ability to publish the pages to the website. But again, this is just an example of how assigning roles might play a part in your website's workflow. The point is that the site administrator controls all of the user permissions that make up a role, and that the administrator can assign as many or as few permissions to as many roles as he wants. So the site administrator's workflow looks like this. He first sets up the site connections, which basically sets up the site to work with Contribute. Then he defines each user role and sets each role's editing permissions. And lastly, he sends out connection keys to each person who's been assigned a role. We'll be talking more about connection keys very shortly, but basically they're files containing all the information other Contribute users will need to connect to the website, as well as information about that user's editing permissions. Connection keys are commonly sent out by email, but you can also just put them someplace on a local network if you have a system in place to share files with people on your network. And that's pretty much all the site administrator has to do. Now, if you're the person receiving the connection key, basically you're a contributor, and here's how things work on your end. First, you connect to the site and Contribute using the connection key the site administrator sent you. Then you browse to a page on the site directly in Contribute. Contribute has a built-in web browser. And then you edit the page. Editing a page can mean changing text, adding images, inserting tables, creating links, basically anything you've been allowed to do by the site administrator. And when you're done editing the page, you can either publish it to the live site if your role permissions allow you to do so, or if not, you can send the page for review, which means that Contribute will still publish your change to some place on your web server, but it gives it a gibberish name so the casual visitors to your site will be highly unlikely to stumble across it. Meanwhile, other site contributors, those who do have publishing permissions, will see in their copies of Contribute that you've edited a page that needs to be reviewed. They can view the page in Contribute, make any other changes they might need to make, and then publish your page to the live site. So that's a quick overview of the Contribute workflow. We'll get much more detailed with these steps as we move through these movies. But for now, let's go on to the next chapter and start looking at the Contribute interface.